Welcome, everyone. We want to just do a quick around the table so we can introduce ourselves to Kathy. I'm Phil Sipley, chair of the meeting, been doing this for about a year and a half. Welcome.
Mike Goddard, I'm select board. I'm the alternate covering the meeting for this evening.
Hi, Kathy. I'm Mark Pacino. I represent emergency management because the shelter at the senior center.
I'm Kathy Hunt. I'm new to Mendon, almost 2 years,
Welcome.
so interested.
Diane Howell, and I'm just volunteering, trying to get my 2 cents worth. I didn't know him.
Just one school.
I'm Karen Sipley. I'm a newbie. I volunteered. I'm Peg Noguera from the Council on Aging.
And we volunteer.
And on the line there, we have Mike Petrovic.
Good.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Petrovic. I am the architect that the town has selected to work with the committee to do a feasibility study or schematic design or conceptual design and budget for the senior center project. I've been working with the town since 2018. And I was part of a partnership at that time. And then in 2021, we re-engaged as my own firm. So this is about the 4th or 5th version of it, but it's a good exercise, and I'm glad to be working with all of you.
Hopefully this will be successful. Okay, I think we'll just do a little housekeeping to start with. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there another person up there?
Mike.
Oh, Mike. Hey, Mike, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Your mic is on.
I say unverified.
We have another one.
Might not be used.
He's
Mike
actually
is,
he's muted, so he.
muted, yeah. Mike.
Hi, Bill.
Okay, how you doing? He's one of another one of the committee members.
He works in construction, so his input is going to be very helpful when we get.
Once we get to the point, I think Mike is gonna be good, really well.
Yes.
He's been excellent so far.
Yes.
Okay, I think let's do a quick bit of housekeeping. The minutes went out on the revised version late yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
Reviewed them, they look fine, but do I have someone who will make a motion to accept the minutes?
Hey, did you see my email today?
I didn't. I'm sorry. What did it say?
No, it was like at 3:30 or 4 today.
Oh,
No, I'd say
taking dinner.
the item about August 21st, having a list. Like I
Yeah.
said, we're having a meeting in August,
Just a meeting?
so we'll have just some directional idea of what's going on, but I don't think we'll have a definitive project list. I just want to make sure that expectations are set properly.
Okay, I did have down August 21st, select board will have a list, but I'll amend that on this one. I'll just say your meeting on the
Starting
21st. No, please
You
don't
guys are
apologize.
brilliant, though, you'll come through.
Meeting on the 21st. Perfect, thank you. Thank you for telling me that.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Second that.
All in favor?
I gotta get my,
Mike? A? You approve? Oh, yes.
okay, thanks.
Oh, roll call. You have to, Mike, you have to state your name.
Like a mandolier, aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
The second thing that was the important topic today was to have Mike Petrovic. We have so many mics on the team, you'll get used to it. But to give us an update on what your findings are, Mike, to this point, after a couple of discussions we've had and redirections to a smaller budget.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do is share my screen first.
Thank you.
I need to write.
As
So
Mike
you
brings this up, we had a few discussions from our last meeting to downsize the cost of the cost of construction. So we gave him a charter to see what he could do, still maintain the functionality of the senior center that we need, because there's no sense just to build a building to replace a building. So we're looking at that, plus the functionality, some added functionality. And Mike's been chartered to go take the first cuts at these things to see what we can do. And this will be the first time we've seen it. These are work in progress numbers. You'll hear numbers tonight. And I think we'll refine them probably over the next week or two. So this is not go to the bank numbers, but it gives us an idea and a direction. With
Yeah,
that,
and-
Mike, I'll let you
Okay.
go.
So what this is, as Phil mentioned, is it's a work in progress. And what you're seeing on your screen now is something that I showed the committee back in June, which was kind of my first response after it was not passed through the town vote, and what I thought was an option that could happen. And so this was kind of condensing the building a bit and in a sensible way, in what you're going to see tonight in a little bit more detail, but I always like to look at where we started. And so what we talked about was that this building needs to get smaller and smaller in price. And it's going to be a bit of a push and pull till we get there, and to be sure that we do the right thing. So now what I'm going to do is show you the latest. So what is on the screen is, you'll see here is the previous plan, which was presented to the town, which was defeated. And this up here is, I'm going to zoom in on this now, is a condensed version of what we think is going in the right direction. And it's maintaining, so everybody understands, especially those that are new to the group, that we did an exercise over the last 4 years with Amy and the committee to come up with a program of spaces and size those spaces according to what Amy feels is needed to do the programming at the senior center. So what you're seeing here is, this was the ultimate dream, which was a bit beyond the town's reach. And so we've started working our way back, and you'll see that most of it comes out of this area here, and then we've gotten rid of this appendage, if you will, over here, and taken this multi-purpose room and brought it in and condensed this area here. You're going to see that we've taken some of these spaces and moved them to the lower level, this program space, and the file storage room is here, and we've taken the health office or this multi-purpose office and moved it to the lower level. Again, it's putting a stake in the ground and seeing if it works. What I think people also need to understand is that this is really about, this is the building. This is a kind of what the floor plan would look like. This is what the building would look like. And here is the price. And once this gets approved and we actually move forward with full design and construction documents, we'll revisit exact placement of things again and sizes. So the one thing we did do is we maintained the overall size of this multi-purpose room. Amy feels that being able to sit 125 people in that room is important. I do think, unfortunately, the next cut, if you will, is going to have to be to downsize that room a bit if we need to cut further. We have taken about 1,500 square feet out of the building so far.
Okay, so the net of this, Mike, is this one's 1,500 square feet less than the previous one.
Yeah.
It was around 11 and change.
Right. But, again, the layout doesn't change. You can see we've got the administrative area here, reception, the same functionality. Again, this program space in the lower left here is a space that moved to the lower level along with this office. And then what we did is we took some space out of here, used this space to move the kitchen and pantry up. I do feel like also this kitchen and pantry is probably something that's going to get smaller if we have to make the building even smaller.
Mike, what are the measurements right now for the kitchen?
It's roughly 500 square feet with about a 200 square foot pantry. I don't know dimensions this way, that way.
Oh,
but
that's.
Yeah.
One thing we need to look at is the practicality of the committee. Because if you make it much smaller, we're just defaulting to what we have. And I will always champion that mission, because if we do, it's an exercise that we shouldn't continue, but that's okay.
Right.
I just throw that out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's,
Yeah.
We'll get a lot of use.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. So now the idea is that this large multi-purpose room has a divider. It gets divided in a roughly, it's not quite half. It's not exactly 2/3, 1/3. It maintains this space here for activities that can happen on tabletop and could happen, and then around lunch. And then this space over here, which has its own entrance, could be used either for tabletop activities or other activities like exercise or floor activities or something like that. So this really becomes an activity space most of the time when this divider is closed. Both of these spaces have access to this outdoor deck, which is required because we need a second means of egress out of this space. And you'll see that space is actually above grade. So again, what happens here is this, we lose about 1,000 square feet on the main floor. Almost exactly 1,000 square feet. So then if we go to the lower level, so because we have a hill, for those of you that are new to this, we have the way the property is set up, we actually end up with almost a full walkout basement, which is exposed on like 2.5 sides. So when this was the previous lower level, we have the food pantry, the food storage, some restrooms. You'll see a restroom configuration that I'll describe in a moment. We need an electrical and mechanical room. Some mechanicals can go in the attic. This is unexcavated space. When we did the original estimate on this version, it turned out that this was a very expensive piece to excavate and put a full foundation under. And so it saved substantial dollars even in the first go around. Second go around, I've had to use a little bit of that to get a mechanical room, an electrical room. But we end up with a multi-purpose office downstairs, the game room. And then this is the multi-purpose meeting space, which we've designed the building such that it can be used by other groups in town. And the rest of the building gets locked off and it has a dedicated restroom. So that, and this also gets divided. So when it's being used by the senior center, this can either be one room or two activity spaces. So ultimately, from a functional standpoint, we don't lose a whole lot. Things get a little smaller. I think something to be learned from this exercise is that dedicated spaces are great, but multi-purpose spaces make the most economic sense. And it provides space. I would argue that, I think the programming is that the food pantry for now is going to be in the senior center. I think one of the things that can happen is that we've downsized it. We have to, right? We need the space, but this is space that if the senior center really does grow and needs more space, the food pantry could always go offsite somewhere. Even if it was an addition, let's say, to a building that houses the vans as a freestanding building, the food pantry could potentially be there. But I think that, or the building could be added to, but I think that there's opportunity there for this to happen.
That's for future expansion, is that correct?
Yeah, so you could expand into here and then move the food pantry into another space, or you could add on to the building.
Okay.
So
Sorry, you saying the food pantry's on the first floor?
the food
That's-
pantry, it's on the lower level, but it has outdoor direct access from outside. We call this, so this is main floor. We don't do first floor and second floor. You're not at home. So we have a main floor and we have a lower level. And so the food pantry is on the lower level. It has windows. It has an outdoor, its own access from outside. This is controlled access though to the senior center. You can only go to the food pantry because all senior center members, regardless of where they park, need to enter through this entrance up here and check in at the reception desk. So, we have maintained the look and feel of our building. We just removed some pieces, as I've said, and condensed it. So I think ultimately we've maintained the integrity of the original design. We've simply scaled it back a bit.
Kind of shrunk it this.
Yeah. And so I think there's a few other spaces to tweak. it wants to be, this is important to understand that this exercise isn't, we need a door there, we need a window there. This is really about that, do we provide space and what does it cost?
Mike, have you have an opportunity to take a look at areas that could be done in phasing, setting up
Yeah.
a,
I don't see this building being phased at all. I think that unfortunately, the nature of our site, you could potentially, the problem is now that we've condensed it, we've taken most of the program space, aside from the reading room and this here, we've put everything on the lower level. And so if this doesn't get finished, you basically have less than about what you have now at the current senior center.
okay, question, then there were opportunities in the budget to think about the garage addition as a different phase or priority. And also those advanced shrubberies and bushes, and are there any things like that we could do that project?
So we've looked at a conceptual budget, and this is based on previous square footage. I think we have to look at the building and see, is this building going to meet the needs? But I think it has to, because we need to downsize. But Phil and I talked about, this thing could have basic landscaping. It doesn't need to have all of the landscaping. The other thing is that, as we look at sustainability, we don't want to plant lots of lawn. We don't want to mow lots of lawn. We don't want to have lots of landscaping that has to be watered. So what we want to try to do is do this in such a way that, in an intentional way, but really minimally landscape it. Also for cost, landscaping is expensive. This site is a little bit expensive to develop because we do need to, I don't know if the site plan is here. Site plan is not here, but we have to put this driveway in to get us in from, is that North Avenue?
Yes.
From North Avenue into the site where this building is going to be located. So we own about $1 million, $500,000 to $750,000 worth of driveway. So the goal here is to get to about 8 million.
Would be
And-
power.
That's good, sure, okay.
So
Again, we want to make sure the construction is not as of a quality that we don't have to worry about replacing the floors every 5 years.
right. So I mean, and you have to do that sort of stuff. I mean, that's just going to be there. And that's why these buildings cost, $600 to $800 a square foot. They're commercial buildings. They're not homes. Although we're doing a house right now that's $1,100 a square foot. So
Mike, a question on, to Phil's earlier question on finished. What's your definition of being finished in terms of the lower level?
well, I mean, it's usable, walls, doors, windows, flooring, ceilings, lighting.
So, well, I mean, when I look at I see a function, multi-purpose room and a food pantry.
Yeah.
That,
No, but this is 2 of her activity rooms. This is really 2 classrooms that opens up if the Boy Scouts want to use it as one big room. So when you go to the main floor, she has one space. And this, which gets used at lunchtime for lunch.
how many
So-
how much single threading is going on now with this design? And how
Define
many
that.
current activities are we doing?
What do you mean single threading? I don't know what you mean.
Well, I think one of the things, Phil, is that we have to break down and set up
Yeah.
for each and every activity.
Yeah.
We have-
The original design basically had a very specific targeted use in a single room.
So,
Yes.
okay.
That's
That
what you
said-
said.
The reading room is a kind of a socializing conversation area. So that's always set one way.
Yeah.
This room here, so this big room has a divider. So this side over here could be tables for one activity in the morning. Well, I can tell you, taking down these round tables and putting them away is no easy task, but could happen. And then in the afternoon, it could be an exercise class. or this could be set aside for floor activities, let's say, and this is always set up for table activities. Could be something in the morning, lunch is set up, lunch, and then something in the afternoon.
Is, because we want to minimize the conversion, constant conversion, because that's
That's
Right.
labor, right? Then she's going to need labor to do that.
labor and efficiency also. It's overlapping. But we do
So-
have room downstairs where we could run programs.
Right,
An
so
exercise.
my envision for this is that this space here is probably not, does not have tables set up, and anything with like floor or exercise activities happens in this space. This is always set up with tables, could be games in the morning, lunchtime, and then something else. It's maybe some other art classes in here in the afternoon, possibly. Lower
Yes.
level,
I'm gonna be the devil's advocate.
It's-
You just need to make sure that there's no downtime or minimize the downtime because people are gonna say that's wasted space. So if
right?
you can't demonstrate you've got concurrent programs running at the same time, people are gonna look at it and say,
What are the
well,
goals?
let's
Yeah.
repurpose. So just be aware of that questioning that's gonna come your way.
As, and I appreciate the double advocate. As we said, we want definition.
This is good. I'll
Besides-
tell you the number. I'm just
The
saying,
numbers more staff, right? More staff, especially with 2 levels. We're gonna be similar to the library.
operational cost. You had 2 levels before. The first go around, there was no discussion about impact to operational numbers because it was all volunteer.
Or the basis of the people who are upstairs.
I'm just saying, it's another, people are gonna look, if people are against this idea due to cost, they're gonna look for opportunities to demonstrate where the cost is coming from. And any changes, we say we reduce the number, but then we're talking about increasing staff. I'm not saying we're not, I'm just saying, these are all very,
In their mind,
sensitive.
it's upping the cost because in the long
And
term,
that's a long-term cost versus a one-time cost to build.
right.
Mhm.
Can I ask a question?
But just, I'm not sure why 2 levels, or if you're running the programs in a smaller space, the same program's running in the larger space, staffing was flat on the last version. It's not clear to me why you're now saying you need more staff. I'm not saying you do, because I always question that. I'm just saying, be careful. The logic of that argument doesn't sit with me to understand. Your programs haven't changed. You've shuffled the deck. But your plan is to do the same type of activity, so your number of people should be the same. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying. In other words, why would we run programs downstairs if we have some space upstairs that we could use, even if we just finish with lunch
Right.
and people want to play cards or something, we don't need to put them downstairs. They could just take that spot. Can't you actually make
I worry about emergencies, to be honest with you.
some
Somebody,
emergencies?
somebody falls downstairs, somebody has a diabetic reaction, somebody's gonna be responsible for calling 911.
Right.
If there's not a staff person down there, you know,
You're looking at- I
You
see.
don't have one now, though. Staff person downstairs.
but we really don't have it upstairs. And we have a staff person. Are you talking about that,
Well, I'm thinking if she's down, if Ann's downstairs or, and they're doing
Well,
the,
that's different. One person working down there as opposed to
one person
a
could fall.
group.
I just think through the operational impact more fully at this point.
Okay.
Because you're gonna get more questions
Well,
now than you did before.
We were trying to get more hours for our assistant position too, in which unfortunately, so that was, we were showing that we needed more hours there. Yeah.
Operationally, I think we're gonna need more hours. Operation.
Well, we talked about this on the first go around, Phil, and all I heard is we got volunteers.
See, I didn't hear that. I don't know. I guess, you know,
And
I
we do.
apologize.
No, we do have a lot.
No, I know.
volunteers. We do.
There's somebody
When
involved.
FinCom asked the questions, well, we got a lot of volunteers, and I said, that's true.
Operationally, though, we doubled from the 19,000 we're doing now. Not the salary component, but we did double the operational cost. Salary component, we always anticipated we probably need that full-time person and a part-time administrator. And we do have a hell of a lot of volunteers, so this thing wouldn't run at all.
I also have a question.
Get back.
We were talking about that multi-purpose room and saying, well, it's got a door and we can do this with it and that with it and this over and this happened, that. But doesn't that have to be that size, the large size, because we're the emergency response area that needs to, if something happens, we got to put 150 people somewhere.
Yeah, so
Well-
this wall opens and it becomes one large room for those bigger events.
They wanted
If we had to do that, we close the senior
And
center.
then change the size.
We can't do
If
we-
Right, that's right.
In the beginning, we could have done it downstairs and left the senior center going. Now we can't.
Yeah,
If we're gonna do something that size. I have some other questions too, as far as the shelter goes.
What's this program again?
On the bottom.
On the bottom? No, this is the previous one.
That's what that is.
Okay, I'm getting confused.
Yeah, I know.
All right,
Yeah.
all right, never mind. Okay,
Okay,
What do we have? We still have a conference office on this. File, okay. So we took away one office, but. was one room.
so downstairs is the food pantry, the room for the community activities, 2 bathrooms.
3
Are we
bathrooms.
doing a shower at all? Is that
These,
completely gone?
these 2 restrooms have showers. This one does not.
Okay, that's your
Thank
answer.
you, that's check one. Mike, is there any storage available downstairs at all?
No. So we have really, I mean, we've had to take all that out because we
Yeah.
just don't have, and the storage up here is for when these tables need to go away. They go in this closet here.
Okay, and then the last thing I have is the building gonna have a generator as part of
Yes.
this? But, okay,
Yes.
and I'm assuming, Mike, this has all the fire safety, the water storage,
Mm-hmm.
all the capable for solar once we plug it in
Right.
capabilities.
We've been building that in. So I just want everyone to understand too, that, because of the water supply situation, the sprinkler system here is over $200,000. We've got to
Oh.
store about between 20 and 25,000 gallons of water underground
Yeah,
and have a fire pump. And you need the
Yeah.
generator anyway for emergencies, but the generator is required to run the fire pump.
right.
So, those
Well,
are just givens.
You're still gonna need storage space though,
storage space.
for all the supplies.
I mean, right now, we can house 35 people at the senior center.
Yeah.
Everything is in the garage that we store.
Right.
Corner.
We've seen it, yeah.
So at a minimum, we need that much. And if not, then it's gonna have to come here.
Well, let's take a look at this as, this is Mike's first, this is a work in progress. The numbers we're hearing today is not the number we're going to the bank with. Mike.
Right, go ahead. However,
Pantry,
if-
food storage.
However, but I think we need to make sure that functionally this building performs.
Yeah.
And if we have to expand a bit and not knock off 1,100 square feet. So I want everybody to keep an open mind as we question this. And not get stuck on one vision.
I do have to question the food pantry again.
Huh?
This food pantry is, based upon we've measured the food storage that's down in the basement currently and what it would take to process and deliver food. And we're doing a food pantry for the Salvation Army now. And so we know what food pantries are. I think that I understand the need for it, but I think this is taking up a lot of space.
That's what I didn't understand the dynamic when I see food pantry and food storage, like, and the doors. Mike, I was gonna ask the question, like, well, how does that operationally work? Those
So
two
I
rooms?
come in here. So this is where all the food gets stored. You never let
Yeah.
people come in to get the food is stored where they gets bagged and put into bags and people pick it
Yeah.
up. They come in here, they pick it up here and they leave.
Yep.
And so it can operate however it wants. I mean, this wall could go away. It's defining space based upon what we know about food pantries and looking at the amount of food that is stored on shelves currently and what it's going to take to transition that to this building. And every town operates differently. But I think that this is a very costly building to be dedicating at $800 a square foot to this food pantry, which is typically an entity unto itself or run by a church or something like that.
Well, the uniqueness of this town, and I'll reiterate what Amy and a bunch of people have said, is that it's a way you have the one touch for people who are in need.
Right.
We have resource people there who provide them all sorts of other activities. It's a connection point. It's a safety net for these people.
Right.
And we don't have that anywhere else easily accessible in this town that I'm aware of.
And it's for everybody,
And it's for,
little townspeople.
and we could jettison the food pantry, but I think.
Again, I just
I'm
raised
just
it.
talking about size and maybe that's some of your storage.
Well, that's what I was thinking too, but I don't know, he can tell me it's so many square feet, that means nothing to me. I need to
Right.
kind of know length and width.
I can tell you
Thanks,
that
I-
Durable medical equipment,
Yeah, but
that's,
that could go in there too.
well, the durable medical equipment was supposed to go out in that garage,
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
the old building. This,
Janet,
this actually, this food storage area is less than you have in the basement now.
When you say it's, so you mean where our shelves are, where all our food is?
Yep,
You're
this is
telling me that
less,
that big space that you're showing me there is actually smaller?
Yep.
Well, then that's kind of deceiving.
well, Peg, we're just talking about, we have a long way to go to get into nuts and bolts of shelving space and all that. I'm trying to get a basic layout. I can't do it all at once. This
No,
is
I
gonna
understand
take a
that, and
couple
I'm
months
only
to get
speaking-
there.
I'm only speaking as council on aging on this,
Yep.
and I would draw the line in the sand that the food pantry stays.
Well, I would too. I'm just wondering I'm still, the food pantry, what happens in the right-hand side of that big box?
So
Right.
ultimately, it's,
Just
think
people
of it as
picking up.
one, think of
They
it
don't
as
need all
one
that
space. I mean, we threw a wall in, but the reality of it is that they don't want people coming in for food going in where the shelves are. So there's usually an
Right,
area
right.
where
So it's
they're,
almost like a counter or something where you bring in
Well,
the food.
sometimes they set it up where people can walk, they put
Sure.
some stuff out on shelves that people can walk around and grab.
So I'm
Yes,
just
we do have some of that, Mike.
Yeah, so Peg, I'm just kind of curious, how does it work today? Not so much Mike's giving us a view of how other people have done it. I'm kind of curious how we do it today, and is there a in-between that we can get to? Because the pantry looks like it's about 40% of the food pantry space. So that surprises me.
Yeah,
Because that seems like the interaction and the traffic would come through there, right?
we have two scenarios. We have one where people come and shop.
Yeah.
And
We have
we're trying to
carts.
encourage more people to do that because it's less labor intensive for us. So they come and they shop and we help them get their things out. But then otherwise, if they don't do that, then they do put it in orders are put together for them. They're either then delivered or they come to pick them up. So people do need to move around in there.
I think, Mike, what we can simply look at this question is, and we can go through the exercise looking at square footage we have today.
Yeah.
And look at the square footage of those two boxes there.
Mm-hmm.
And if those two boxes is significantly larger, we could have storage.
Right.
If they're not significantly larger, that could be an impact where our size is just not sufficient for the
I mean, the
needs.
the reality of it is, the first thing is to do this, right, with a wall, and this becomes storage.
Yeah.
And
if
then,
it's gonna
and
be
then,
up anyway, though, we could finish it up any way we want it. With how much room you need for pickup, how much.
Well,
you need for-
right,
I think the point is, we need to look at what we have today and how that services. If it's tight, we need to consider what that means if we need to grow it a little.
Mhm.
And then look at that space that you have designed here, Mike, and say, I've got the numbers at home. Actually, I ran around the food pantry the other day and measured it all,
Oh, you do.
Mhm.
just to get an idea of what that really means.
right.
Sorry, I didn't bring, you and I can review that.
Yeah, we've actually done that too. I just hasn't translated all the way through.
Okay, I think that's an exercise.
Yep.
Okay.
Karen has a question. This Karen.
I'm just wondering if we can get the dimensions of all of those spaces, your drawings for your vision for the space.
What I would
And
do is
then-
before we send it, I'll put square footage and then we'll put dimensions of space.
Dimensions.
Yes, that would be helpful for me.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
well, it's helpful for everybody. But then give Amy and the committee members an opportunity to sit down and look at this and discuss it from a standpoint of functionality.
Especially when he's already measured.
Yeah, and how it's gonna functionally work in this town, because we're an anomaly in a lot of ways as a town.
Right.
And I go back to, we want to come back with a better price. Don't want to do something that's no better than what we have or not functionally better than what we have,
Right.
because it's a waste of exercise.
I mean, ultimately, we need to get the price on this thing down.
We do. I mean, we listened to, we said, let's bring it down.
Listen to
And that's
the,
the exercise we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it down the right way.
But in the right way, exactly. We want to bring it down the right way. If we can't store this stuff and we got to put rental trailers next to it, and if we need all that crap, all that stuff, that is an ongoing operational cost.
Right.
Can I ask a question? Mike, based on what we're looking at now,
Yep.
are you suggesting that, I mean, I know it's not done, but are you suggesting you need further reductions based on the targets we gave you? Or are you saying that gets pretty close to the targets we gave you?
It gets pretty close to the targets. I have to run the numbers and I
Yeah.
didn't have a chance to do that, but it's taking this spreadsheet
Yeah.
and starting up in here. And then it's recalculating all this stuff down through here to get to and see if it gets to that number.
Yeah.
We also know that from a material standpoint, we're going to need to be, I don't know that we can get to this level, but we're certainly going to need to be try to stay as close to $400 a square foot before we add all this stuff in.
Right. And
Right.
as we look at that spreadsheet, Mike, that does not include, does that include the contingencies and stuff?
It does.
see it
Yeah.
12%.
So we've got this design contingency here, and then we've got. We've just got that one for now. We only carry that one now, but it's 12%. So you got that's over $500,000.
Just do it. That's a good number.
Yeah, I mean, a 93.
86.
Yeah, I like the number too.
No, it's directional. So if anyone watches this video, that is not a number we're pricing. It's directionally correct.
Okay,
So-
Mike, looking at, it looks like you have, if you can get us some of that information.
Yep.
That would be helpful, and you can also refine some of the numbers. And when would we want to try to get together again to discuss this? Because I
So
think this is a,
I'm going to need about 3 weeks because I'm leaving Thursday morning to be gone till the 12th. So not that nothing gets done while I'm away, but I can get some of it going while I'm done, but I can't have it done for, let's say, the 13th or 14th. I need another week.
Mike, can we get that from Mike now? And maybe the exercise on our side to say, what doesn't that give us?
yeah, we need this.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need
it's hard
that.
to see it from-
We can definitely get you that even while I'm gone. That can get to you. So
No,
you've got the
that's-
sizes and
Functional use cases and say, where would that happen? I don't see that here. And that way we can say, Mike, there's gaps here, emergency management, what have you, but it gives us a chance to bring questions back. you know?
Yes, the
Right.
weeks that he's gone, yeah.
I think what you should do is look at the sizes of the spaces, number one. Number two, you should actually sit and run a program schedule through these rooms.
Yep.
And see, as to Mike's point, where are the openings to be sure that they're not too many. A few is okay because you'll probably fill those up. But to be sure that you're not overbuilding.
I don't think this is overblown. I think this is pretty good. Yeah.
I think some of the gaps, the concerns I have is somewhere around the storage areas that, just general. stuff.
Yes, it's sort of the stuff you don't really think, but you kind of think about it and you're like.
Yeah, Mike, if you can put those numbers together,
Mm-hmm.
dimensions and square footage,
Yep. We can do that. We can have that to you probably by the end of
plus
the
your,
week.
plus your estimates. If that first column of estimates is the less than standard optimal structures, which
Yeah.
we're absent, I don't even want to see it.
Right. We're not going to do that. We're going to have to go to where you want to be. I just want to point out that really the exercise in looking at these, how a program runs through this building is A, to be sure that the building is adequate, but B, to answer the question, why do you need this?
Of course.
Mhm.
Mike, that's the question on the slab.
Yeah.
On the building,
Yeah.
that's the same size on both versions, right?
No, we had to actually use a little bit of that space to get a mechanical room in.
So could what would the cost be to use a little bit more for storage? Like to
Well, that's the thing we
top of the
could.
staircases?
I was
Okay.
thinking that, we could develop this side over here. And then the whole key is if we run one foundation wall all the way through, That's cheaper than even doing what we're doing here. So you're right. This could become storage right here.
Just up there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But
Good.
for the moment, just look at, we know that storage is not addressed, but just look at all the senior center programming spaces and run that exercise for now.
Okay, okay, that's good. You got us the data, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the time frame on that in your mind?
We'll have that to you by the end of the week.
Okay. Just want to let, then I'll get that to everybody. We can do an exercise on it. So I think maybe we should probably meet next week then, again. Start looking at this.
Session.
Working session, yeah, working session.
Is there room for pool tables?
Yes, that's
No,
right. That's,
no, I'm serious.
that's right here. That's the game room.
The Lions, that was one of the first things, well, I shouldn't say the Lions, brothers.
Oh,
Brothers
I
and
couldn't
Lions.
say it.
It's gonna be-
Lions, you
How
want.
many Lions that play pool?
The brothers.
So Amy, we
Were they
show
asking
one,
for a bar too?
well, that's a way to make money though.
That's the
A
people who
full,
are
a full
going.
serve establishment.
I remember that. That was my school money.
Yes.
So
but
what are you
Amy,
saying, Mike?
this could fit 2 pool tables right in here. That's what this is about here. We show one with a couple of game tables, but easily you could have 2 tables here,
He's pointing to the bank room on top.
Okay,
It's a
right
game.
here.
Okay, well, that's,
Oh, okay. I see it.
Okay,
Do this. You can see it right here. Okay.
all right, he's
Okay.
back up on the main floor then.
Yeah.
All right.
the other ones.
okay, Mike. If you send us that information,
Good.
if you send that, we can work that.
Okay.
And then you said you needed,
You're gonna play pool.
how many weeks after we give you some input
What
back
I'd
to
love
get back?
to do is I'd love to, would you be comfortable meeting like the 19th or 20th of August?
It's a Tuesday.
Yeah, let me work that on the backside of the schedule. I think we can live with that.
Okay.
I just want to
So-
make sure we can do our numbers and analysis on the other side, because we need to communicate by the beginning of September.
Yeah.
To the population, because we have all the imbalance will be going up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
very good. I appreciate your work on this, and then,
Yeah.
look forward to stuff at the end of the week. Thank you, sir.
And have
I
a great vacation.
Thank you. Phil, I still owe you a letter about all of this
Oh, yeah,
additional
we need
work.
we need an amendment to yes, we need
Right.
that.
Right. Okay. Very good. Oh yeah, we do need to get paid for this. Sorry about that. Minor detail. All
Yes.
right. Thanks,
Please send it
everyone.
along.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. You're welcome to stay, but you can keep working. That's fine.
No, I'm good. Have a good night. Enjoy.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mike Amendolia, are you still there? Mike in?
Looks like he's-
Yes, I am.
All right, I'd like your opinion on what you just heard. You're in construction.
Uh, I think it's a reasonable idea. I'll know better once we see some better drawings on it, the building drawings. The question is everybody else happy with it?
I think we're in the same boat, Mike. We need to see the drawings, play with the square footage, assign what will go in the spaces, and then say what didn't fit. Or it doesn't fit completely. So I think we're like you, we need to see better drawings.
Yeah, right about the storage.
Yeah.
What was his bottom line, please? It was eight something?
He was talking about trying to get it in
I think the nine something, that first column I caution everybody to use, he's been using that as a bare bones construction material. And I'm not sure he modified his schematic. If that's the case, we're gonna have operational costs and maintenance costs that are gonna be more than we want. So unless he clarifies that column, it says that's a real, because the last proposal he showed that there was really the construction material I was worried about. He was talking about not the flooring that you will want to keep in a high traffic area. So I'm looking at the 9.3 number versus the 8 in my mind, based on working with him. You know, he may come back and surprise us all. We'll have room for storage.
Well, I'm just wondering if, yeah. Well, let's see what he comes up with.
Okay, so he showed possibilities.
Question, you had 9.3 and an 8.6 met side by side, so was that the equivalent of 10.5, 9.5 that Dave talked about? Give me a 10.5 design with a 9.5 build?
No, not really, because he's not talking about it on
He's finishing everything.
finishing
For the
everything.
10, so 9.5 is actually,
Finishing everything.
okay.
And in some respects, I'm better with that than piecemealing and try to
No, I mean, if you get it all done and you hit your target.
you hit that target number, because that's where we want to go.
Right.
We get the 9.5 number, I think that's a reasonable number, providing the functionalities there.
9.99999.
Cup of coffee.
Okay. As soon as I get the data from Mike, I'll ship it out to the team. Next week, I think we should just have a working session, talk about it. Everybody try to review it before the meeting, think about it, talk about it. Propose it. Be positive about it where we can, but I think it's a good direction. Yeah. The next piece on the agenda is going back to review the creation of document statements and release of meeting. I got a note from Jeremy. Peg, I think you got it too. I just copied you on it. He talked about what we could do from who can publish things. He did indicate we could do an informational website like we had before, where we could just host content. If we have designs, we can host content. If we have pricing, when we get there, we can host content. Once he does his analysis of what it would cost by bands, 9.5, we could post that out there as well. But that's not a vote yes, vote no thing. He said that would have to come from an outside resource. We couldn't create that as committee people or townspeople, or use resources. As individuals, we can make positions and say whatever we want to say publicly. We just can't have town resources pay for the yes, no document from what I can gather. Unless
Yeah, no, that's my understanding. It's more about resources meaning money.
money.
You can't use taxpayer dollars
And
to.
you did that the first go around.
Right, we paid privately and we put everything down, it was by the committee.
We probably shouldn't post yes, no on senior center town property. Right? So
Right.
the signs, that probably was
Yeah,
something.
we
should
weren't
do.
gonna do that and we were just gonna say, please vote.
But my understanding is like this committee as people, we could actually draft the language.
Right.
But we just can't use town.
Money.
So maybe we actually want. And I don't know if using this room be considered town resources to draft that language
I bet it is. Should we all bring our ideas then next week?
or do we do remote, would be actually using town resources.
We can go in my basement, it's finished. It's not the town's resources.
But yeah, so last week, we were talking about, can we actually write the information? And we weren't sure we could. Sounds like we can, but we can't. It's more the dollars. We can't spend or use town resources.
That's my, yeah. And if there's an issue, maybe we'll clarify the building issue.
Yeah.
Literally, we could fit in my house, that's not a problem. We can always have next meeting then. And as a working, maybe we don't have to call it a meeting. I don't know. Now there'll be too many of us together.
Because that open
Yeah,
meeting
we are.
law and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
because we are.
That's right.
Yeah.
So regarding like putting things in the newsletter, we'll be working on the September newsletter. We're working on it now, but I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. So when I get
Good.
back, we'll be finishing it up. So I'll need something the week of the 19th.
For your letter for the senior scene, or you're talking about the
Senior
regular?
scene, for the newspaper, it's the 25th is their deadline.
Yeah, I know you told us that
Fast.
25th. I forgot about it.
But that's okay. I think we're okay to not have
Well,
something.
we didn't really have the information from them,
Exactly.
and so better to have nothing than wrong information.
I think we can publish, excuse me, we can publish facts. We just can't give opinions of yes, no.
So something needs to go into the September issue of the Free Press. We'll need it by the 25th.
Got it.
And again, and it won't come out till probably the 10th of the month. So, and Did you want to do an insert for the, into the free press instead of, instead of an article? Did you want a paper insert? 'Cause we did that before. I think we did a couple and so.
Well, shouldn't we pick the date we're gonna meet with Mike then again? In other words, if the deadline is the 25th, and he's talking about meeting either the 19th or the 20th, then we could finalize something that could go into your,
So that would be into in the September issue of either the senior center, the senior newsletter or the newspaper.
yeah,
For
'cause
September, did you want something or would you prefer to have that in October, an actual like flyer?
no, when,
One in each
I
one?
don't have, I probably don't have those papers of it. When did the mail outs go out? I know we had that.
Schedule behind this piece here. Mail out go to the end of September, early October.
Oh, early October.
So actually, we need something in that flyer at that point. An insert. But that could be inserted into the paper as a book of action. Or non-voting.
I still think we should have a blurb in the September in the
Yes.
paper.
Okay,
I think there should be a blurb all the way through September, October.
Because we didn't get one in this time. Missed it.
but it's okay if you think about it. A lot of people are gonna be on vacation. I hate to say, a lot of people are gonna miss it. September's probably even more crucial. People are coming back from, summer break and the blurb for both the newsletter and the newspaper.
When do you want to have that meeting with Mike Petrowitz? Do you want to do it the 19th or the 20th?
What's the 19th?
It's a Monday and the 20th is a Tuesday. I don't know what works for people.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Check with Dave. I think Dave's got to pull real Dave back in.
Yeah, we have a couple days, so maybe Monday.
Well, we talked about, do you want to reschedule, but do you want to find out when he can make it before we make a decision? Just say, hey, Dave, what nights are?
Oh, you mean Dave? I thought
Yeah,
you were
Dave,
talking about-
when are you not playing flag football?
Tuesday nights for the next 6 weeks is the last that I've talked to him, so. But we can chat with him, I'll talk to him. And then also, it might be that Monday instead of the Tuesday. I don't know how bad that impacts the town.
I would even say next week's meeting,
Move to,
you'd probably, I think Dave would want some input in terms of what he's looking at, so,
And Elena too,
yeah.
especially when it comes to having a separate committee. She did so well last time and now you're going to need a treasurer. Is Tom, I know you sent Tom a note. I haven't heard from him, Tom Hickner.
yeah,
I mean, he was our treasurer the last time, so that's going to be another position you'll have to get.
you have the volunteers.
Yes, I know. I'm just saying. I know I'm sure he kept good records of all our spending.
Yeah, yeah. Good point. I think Dave doesn't need to be part of that. I'll put, text out to him, see what he can do next.
And Elena too.
Elena. What is this? Can a committee meet on a Monday or?
That would be the 5th.
Next week, so I will not be here on the 19th. I can tell you. that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's okay. But yeah, plans that night.
All right.
Birthday.
Oh, all right.
You have to come.
You can bring her here.
Well, yeah.
I don't think that she's thinking about it.
Good date night.
Yeah, right.
So that piece, the only other piece that, and Mike, you may get clarification from the board, but apparently our earmark is moving along on the federal side.
Yeah, we got a note that, from Auchincloss's office that it has moved to the next step. It's not final, but, it seemed pretty positive. I think it's for like 850 for an earmark.
$850 a thousand.
1,000.
All right. Well, you never know, you never know. Have to ask.
But it's not a done deal.
How done deal?
But it was, I saw it as a positive update from, from them. So we're gonna keep an eye on it.
And my question would be also, I think Brian Murray was working on something
We don't know the status of that one.
because the governor did sign the budget. It was signed yesterday. So I wonder if that was in it. I haven't seen
Well,
the
even on the
particulars.
federal side, there was a note in there saying some of these things don't, like, last year's earmarks didn't come through till like March this past. So the earmark
may
piece
not.
gets a little delayed as opposed to the budget,
Alright.
but we'll see.
But if you look combination, if you get 850 plus it, on the positive side, 100,000.
Right.
Looking at
We get
closer.
$850, I'm happy.
Hey, listen, I know,
Exactly.
I kept saying the building was ten thousand.
With all his TV time lately, he needs a kick in the.
I don't,
I told you 8,000 instead of 8 million. Sorry.
So, okay, so we need to, I'll talk to Dave, we'll set up a meeting next week. Language for the yes, no questions. I'll get this information out to a working group, we can start to work with. Your points well taken with Elena and Dave, they can be here. Run through this. Amy, what's your vacation schedule? Just the
Two next 2 weeks.
The next 2 weeks.
next 2 weeks?
Yeah, not back till the 19th.
Very good, enjoy.
It's like my only vacation.
No,
I know.
There's gonna be plenty.
I don't want to see a car down the street. Seriously.
And then, we need, I've got TBDs, but I think once we start to get our information together, I still want to do that town hall kind of a thing, a meeting in September and October to make sure we inform the citizens, or give them an opportunity to come and listen to not only us, but maybe directional from the rest of the town management.
Mark, quick question. You had three topics. The first one was the generator, which you got a yes on. Space for supplies was your second one, and that's questionable right now. What was your third?
Showers.
Showers.
Shower. In the
Shower.
Okay. All right. I must have missed that. And did we get something that we have to sign? Some kind of piece of paper that we're supposed to read, sign? Am I the only one that got that?
Oh, okay, no, everybody,
And then there's,
I asked Ellen if I could put it off till September.
and she said yes, but we have to do it for council on aging, but wouldn't we have to do it for this
Yeah,
too?
well, I think one would cover
One
you
would.
guys, but yeah.
Oh, that's some kind of,
Oh, I got it from Ellen and I got it from Jeremy.
Because we've been doing the ethics for right along
We
with
got,
this.
you got us trained for that.
we do ethics, we do all that stuff.
Even though we don't have any, we have to sign the paper.
And that's what it
I could be dead tomorrow. Then who's gonna do this job?
Right, you can't do that.
Okay, so I think that kind of covered the major areas: communications, budget, cost, redesign. Anything else for new business?
Kathy, you wanna say anything? I mean, you're probably overwhelmed, but
I am overwhelmed,
okay, not a problem.
but it'll be interesting to see the design or the modified design. And the requirements for the shelter. How many people are you required to house? Is
Right
it-
now, we can hold 35 people in the current senior center. So it's considered a small shelter. Our largest shelter is the Clough School, only because it's the only other building in town that has a generator and we could house 150 people. I don't have to supply for 150 people. The Red Cross would come in and do that.
Mhm.
So it doesn't, we'd like to make it bigger at the senior center because I can't put 150 people in there, but I could put 50 people in there. But again, the more I go up in people, the more storage I need to hold everything that has to be there. But we also have to make sure that we have a commercial kitchen.
Right,
We have the showers that are in the plan.
yeah,
We
we got the
don't
food
have
pantry, another reason.
And the food pantry is right there, which makes it a little bit easier because I don't have to immediately bring in food all the way.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
know, I mean, there's other things that the shelter needs that we're not even gonna have with the new building, like you have to have animal control available. So, because people aren't gonna wanna leave their pets in their house, so, but that's something that we can work on in the future. We do have an agreement with our ACO if we have to house a few animals here or there. Obviously, the bigger the better. We've never had to use it. It's more used as a warming center or a cooling center, the day-to-day activities. And both of our shelters have been certified by the Red Cross, so they're ready to go.
Is there any funding that's available from the state to provide for these?
Yes. We have grants lined up, and as long as it stays an emergency shelter, then I can apply for those grants. Can only apply for them when we have a project. And so right now they can say, yeah, they're available, but you can't have them until you have a project.
We don't have an approved project.
We have them all, we looked at all of them, we know what we can get.
Mhm.
That's today, who knows what the federal government and the state will do down the road, but, there are things that we can do. We could probably outfit the kitchen in some ways. We can provide tables and chairs and things along those lines, for the function room downstairs. We're also looking at some of the community groups to help with that. The Lions are chomping at the bit to be able to help out with the function room downstairs. So,
This is one of those chicken and egg things. If we don't have a
Yeah.
project,
No,
they're
they
not
won't.
getting money.
They'll say, yeah, it's there, but until you have a shovel on the ground in your building.
Well, the Lions have already been above generous. They gave us $1,000 for the food pantry. I mean,
Yeah, super generous.
yeah, so we know.
You know, they're looking for a place to hang their hat. So they would, you know, most likely sponsor a room downstairs, and so they can put a few things up,
Mhm.
even pay you a monthly fee or something, who knows, but it would be nice.
The line of a logistical question.
Sure, no.
He's gonna get back to us for you, by the end of the week with the drawings, square footage and dimension. Then, as a group, you wanted to get together to go over those drawings to see how, or compare them to what we currently have. Amy's gonna be gone.
I know.
It's beautiful. Design, I think.
I think with Peg and stuff.
It's not the final thing anyway, right?
Yeah, but this is the gap of what's needed versus what it's laid out for, so I kind of agree, Amy's kind of a key point, because you look at that, and I can tell you, you're saying, where's this, where's that? Non-verbs. But yeah, that's we actually do a fast forward before the 19th, you know. It's-
When you get,
Either that or if he gets that information to you on Thursday.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Phil, what it takes is one of his designers to take the CAD and drop it on this wall and drop it on this wall, and it gives you the dimensions automatically. He's not doing anything with this.
John, help.
Pricing too. I don't know if he was talking pricing or just the scope.
Yeah, no, I think if he understood that that's a priority for us
Amy.
because Amy's leaving.
Yep.
Yeah, she doesn't
And
need to know so much about the money. You need to know the dimensions.
Yeah, and
Okay,
what's
I'll
there,
send
so
those.
that she can look at it and say, where's the space for my washing machine? Where's the space for, you know?
yeah, I can send a note out to them, just dimensions first, and worry about money later. Get that.
Yes, yes.
Good point. Good catch.
Washing machine in.
In my office,
Get you one of those wash tubs outside.
the washboards.
What are they saying? We're not going back.
Okay, I think that's it, unless, any other comments, but that's a good point. We'll try, I'll send a note out to Mike. I get something for Amy. Yes.
In terms of the email Jeremy sent you saying what can and can't be done.
Yeah.
I might suggest we send an email back to Jeremy saying specifically, this is what we intend to do and what we're gonna do and how we intend to do it. Tell us for cross you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think,
I mean, unless it's, I just feel like there's still some ambiguity.
So
I think what I told him, I did respond back to him. Basically what I said is, it looks like we still can create the website with factual data, plans and things on the website, because he was gonna help us do that. And Dave was gonna have one of his guys help import the stuff rather than keep jumping on Dan all the time. Cost and impact of voters, I said, it's still something that, you need to do. That was Jeremy, he volunteered to do that. So if we can help with that, as far as the vote, yes or no, means it will need to be done by private funding. Maybe through Friends of Elders or private funding, doesn't matter. Just make sure the timing is right with the ballot. So I just reiterated, said we can do that except for the funding. Maybe we can reiterate back. I'll send this note around, but, and then I said the website, I think, is just information.
but do you also mean like the notices, I don't know, blurb in the newsletter or notice in the
Newsletter,
newspaper?
yes, this is what a yes vote does, what a no vote does. The
That's gonna be all private funding, the yes.
the funding to get it out, but I'm the creation of the content. That's sort of,
His statement really said, as private citizens, we can voice our opinions and create. And we just can't use the resources.
Okay.
And we can't do it on time. If you're employed, you shouldn't be doing it. You can't do it while you're working.
Mhm.
I'm a volunteer, so.
I think the question you need to ask though is about the location as well, if we're,
I could do that. Problem with that is though, we form a public meeting once we get a bunch of it together. And you need to be able to record it.
Well, I think you need to think about who's gonna be there. Are you gonna call it a meeting, or is it gonna be
What's
Amy's
the purpose of
design review?
You can't have 3 board members though. That's the problem. It's a number of people. But okay, they're all good questions. I'll go back to Jerry tomorrow. Like tonight. Anything else?
Do you think, are you gonna try to do postcards again? I should say we do postcards again. Let's go around, because that's another,
I don't know, that's where Elena comes in, I think. She was more the ideas person for that.
I think the postcards were effective.
so too.
I think the newsletter insert to the newspaper is effective.
Did anybody come up to you and say they got a postcard? One person came up to me, but they said they threw it in the trash. But that's because their mind was already made up, you know? But I didn't hear a lot of people say, yeah, I got the postcard.
Well, I think people that didn't get the postcards, we kind of knew where they were leaning. Is that not correct?
I think we-
Postcards were sent to people that.
Who know, just people who had voted in the last election, we know
Oh,
how they
okay.
voted. So it could have been someone for our side or not on our side.
I think the since it's a national election, I think we need to err on the point, not necessarily who voted, but go over the entire population. And gamble with that too.
Is it 4,000 registered voters or thereabouts? Is that?
I think that number is close.
3,000 houses. Yes, 2,000 something.
Well, I know the
houses.
I was gonna say the free press goes to like 2,000 and something now.
2,000 something. The 4,000, I've got it on the spreadsheet. I think I showed everybody. Okay. Okay, let me find out what Dave's schedule is. Let me find out, Mike, see if we can get something quicker.
All right, we should close the meeting.
Yes, if we.
It's gotta be, Mike's gotta agree to it, he's remote.
Do we have a motion to close the meeting?
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
We have to do a roll call or just Mike?
Just Mike.
Come on, Mike. He said aye.
Aye.
All right, good
Mike,
night.
Mike, aye.
Thank you.
Aye, Mike. We have a form, we aren't thinking.
Yeah.
It's 10:36.
It was there, he said.
Really? Yeah.
She was just saying.
That was a good one.
Here's
Just
two
one
big-
person.
Still saying.
Okay. Hey, Mike,
She was
close the
showing
meeting.
pictures that I
Thanks
was
for joining.
Good night, Stephanie.
beaming, so I just sent a whole group of pictures off to the newspaper.
Bill, maybe another question. Mike, I wasn't sure if I heard him correctly.
Oh, we
I had
graduated veteran.
Yes.
When I,